So who did he,
Sorry,
no, it's okay.
interrupt. I forgot to do that.
So who did he feel more powerful around? Was all of his siblings that he could kick the shit out of, right? And so of course, with me, that being drilled into me my whole entire life, like I felt ugly. I felt stupid. And then of course, with me not graduating, well, that just, clarified it right there, that, you know what, I am stupid, just all these different things. So when I got into my 20s and 30s, like I said, I became an extreme people pleaser. I would do anything to be liked. And people would actually look at me and they would think, wow, like she is such a powerful, confident person. Oh my God, I was so far from it. So far from it. I played a role is what I did. And then when it came to, men always came first. And what did I attract? Because I had such low self-esteem, I attracted manipulators and I attracted narcissists. And my men always came first, no matter what. No matter what. That's how bad my self-esteem was. And, they never physically abused me, but they mentally abused me. And I let them do that, right? Because I would rather somebody at that time mentally abuse me, treat me like total shit, walk all over me, than me be alone. That's how bad it was. And I just look back now and I just think, oh my God, like how stupid was I, right? And then once I got, and of course, you always crash and burn when you just suppress, right? So once I got into my early 40s, was when I crashed and burned hard. By this time, I was married and I have 4 beautiful children. But with everything that had taken place throughout the years, I crashed and burned. And what actually brought that on was there was an accident within our family. And it was very traumatic for me. And I ended up having these flashbacks. And these flashbacks were from when I was a child. And I wasn't understanding these flashbacks. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if they're real or not. So I was like literally going mentally insane because I was thinking, oh my God, if they are real, oh my God, like, what do I do with these, right? You can't tuck these. They were past the point of being tucked back in. Right. So I was like, are they real or aren't they real? Like, should I tell anybody? Shouldn't I tell anybody? And you know what? I didn't know what to do. So what did I end up doing? I ended up drinking them away. And that was when I really started drinking. Now, my drinking actually started when I was about 14 years old and brought up in a small town in Saskatchewan, only about under 1,000 people at that time. That's what everybody did. So I started drinking when I was 14 years old, and that was binge drinking. And that was, it's a small town, under 1,000 people. And that's where the 14-year-olds literally partied with the 60-year-olds, because if there was one party, everybody in town was at this one house party. That's just how it was, right? And it is still like that to this day. So, and then, in my 20s and 30s, I continued to drink, binge drink. And then once I got into my 30s, and there was just a lot of, I look back now and there was just, because that was in my state of being a chameleon. I was doing everything people wanted me to do. I was married to, someone in our community, that had the family name, and, they were pillars of the community. So I was literally playing the role, but I didn't realize it at that time. That's what people need to understand, but I'll get into that in a little bit. And so like I said, I just literally crashed and burned, and I call her my earth angel. She is my best friend that I've had for years. She came to visit me in where I live, and she looked at me right away, and she could tell, like, her background she's a psychiatric nurse. So she works with people with mental illness and addiction and all of that all the time. Right. And she walked in, and I was trying to put my shit together, right, for her being there that weekend, but she could read me like a book. And she's like, oh my God, Shannon, she goes, you're going to kill yourself. And I looked at her and I go, you're right, I am. And so then that was when I started to open up and tell her about these flashbacks that I was having, and I wasn't really sure or whatever, right? And then so she had said to my husband, she goes, "You've got to get her into a treatment center because she is going to kill herself." And my husband at that time, he did not know what to do at all. So I think he was extremely relieved too, because I had become, it was at that time he would be, months prior, he would bring up to me about my drinking or whatever. And I would just lash back at him because I was so angry and I had so much resentment and anger towards him because of how I had let him treat me all of those years. So I was just so angry. So I wouldn't listen to a thing that
How
that
old
he
were you
would
at
say.
this time, would you say?
Pardon me.
How old were you at this time?
I would have been about 43 years old, and I'm 54 now. Yeah. So it was also a godsend that my friend was here, because I do believe that, like, it was for sure that Kerwin did, my husband did need help, right? And in that aspect, because he didn't know what to do. And so this is where my family and his family are total opposites, like absolute opposites. And when they say, opposites attract, well, that was definitely what happened in our case. So here I am, little Shannon, she's brought up in, this family, which is a family of addiction, mental illness. None of us have any self-worth at all. We're all uneducated. We are struggling financially within our family. There's constant fighting. There's no love. There's no love in a family brought up like that, because we don't know what love is. We don't know what love is because we've never received love, right? We've only received abuse. So that's what it is. Everybody is jealous of each other. Oh my God, heaven forbid that, someone buy a house and get their life on track and have an amazing life. You would never hear growing up in my family, "Oh, good for you. Congratulations." What we would hear if we bought something nice is, "Oh, well, how much was that?" Stupid things like that, right? There was always a jealousy factor, or, it would always be, like someone's trying to outdo somebody else. So that was the environment that I was brought up in. And I would always see the bad in people because of that. I would never see the good first. It was always the bad in people. And I was brought up, don't trust people. You don't trust anybody, right? That's just how it was. Where my husband's side of the family, very religious, brought up Catholic, pillars of the community. Everybody knew them. Everybody liked them. They were all well educated. The family absolutely loved each other. There was support. They supported everybody, within the family. So opposites totally attract, right? And that's what happened. So when the conflict really came up, after I was put in the treatment center, then I was put in a treatment center. I was actually put into the top treatment center in Canada, and I was in there for 8 weeks. Best treatment center ever, I can tell you, and I'm so glad that I went to that treatment center. And I just want to let anybody know out there that don't ever be ashamed that you have gone to a treatment center or that you are going to a treatment center, because that is the best thing that you can do for yourself. And I just want to praise anybody, who's gone there or will be going there, because you know what, it's your first step in the right direction. But in that treatment center, let me tell you, I learned so much about addiction, and I am so thankful and I'm so blessed that I had that opportunity to go. And so I was in there for 8 weeks, and then I came home to my little bubble, and it was literally a little bubble that I felt when I came. So I didn't hang out with people anymore that drank. My friends were pretty much, falling off like leaves off of my little tree. And I wasn't around a lot of family or anything anymore. And I just really kept to myself because I had to, right? My life was starting to change, and I had to set healthy boundaries, which I did. Then it was about a year after, well, I can tell you, it was a year to the date that I was sober for a year, that we were invited to a family wedding on my husband's side down in New York City. And this was the first time I was actually around drinking, a lot of drinking. And because of all of these triggers that I was being exposed to when I was at the wedding, I didn't realize they were triggers because they didn't teach me what triggers were in treatment. And they also didn't teach me what anxiety was in treatment. Little did I know I had anxiety my whole entire life, right? So this particular weekend, we're down in New York City. And one thing with me, because of how I was brought up, I never felt that I belonged in my husband's family because I felt that I was of a lower level. I was a lower species. Now that's me feeling these things, not them. It's me. So when I'm in New York City, all of these triggers are happening, like the feelings of lack of self-worth. I felt abandoned, like all of these things were just coming up within me. Now, one thing with me, and this is me, is with me and my husband, I always felt that it was always my husband, then it was the business, then it was his family, then it was my children, our children, and then it was me. Now that's my perception of what things were. And that was the biggest thing, is what got me into trouble of what my perception was. But those are my feelings. That's how I felt. But you can see now with my upbringing why I felt that way, right?
Wow.
So all of these things are coming up when we're at this wedding. And I'm like, oh my God, like I just felt like I was nothing. I was being abandoned. Like, he's going to his family and, like all this bullshit is happening in my head, right? And it really is, it's bullshit. And so after 3 days of me having this anxiety, I'm like, I can't handle it anymore. I literally can't handle it. I don't know what to do. I'm just going crazy. And instead of me reaching out to him, what I did was I actually suppressed my feelings once again, back to my old ways, right? And I left the hotel and I hit the nearest liquor store that I could find. And so I walked into the liquor store and I grabbed those little 4 white Zinfandels that you can buy in a pack of 4. Purchased them. I walked out. Now we're staying at Times Square here, right? So I walk out, I sit down on the sidewalk and I crack open that bottle of wine, the little bottle of wine. And so I drink that bottle of wine and literally I could feel the alcohol coursing through my veins. I can feel it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like it was just like my anxiety, everything was just gone. I was just so calm. But anybody that knows anything about alcohol addiction, it only lasts, the anxiety is only like you feel at peace or calmness for about 20 minutes. But then what happens is the anxiety comes back tenfold. And that's what happened to me. And then, of course, then you want another drink. So that's why people drink more and more and more, right? Because it wears off, anxiety kicks in more. So it just keeps on, the level keeps on getting higher. So I ended up drinking for about 6 months and I kept it under wraps, right? Like I was lying, I was, hiding my drinking or whatever. And, after about the 6 months, I'm starting to get cocky and I'm thinking, yeah, I could get back into the mode of drinking and everything again. Then I'm starting to hang out with these old buddies that are drinking and they're literally just my drinking buddies, right? There's no friendship there, and it's just an excuse to drink. Then as months go by, I'm starting to fall back into my old ways. The resentment is starting to creep in, the anger, like I'm starting like thinking of my mom and my brother and, just thinking about how my husband, he hurt me so bad all throughout all these years. And, I'm going back into my old ways and it's like, hey, girl, like you got to take ownership in all this shit because I'm the one that let it happen, right? Like there's no more being in denial of this stuff anymore, right? So then I ended up waking up on August 17th of 2019. And I woke up that morning and I said, I am done. I am absolutely done. And I have not drank a drop of alcohol from that moment on. But also when I got up that morning, that was the morning that I said too, that I am going to change my life. I'm not going to be this woman that, is full of pity, blaming others, being a victim, this whole survivor shit, right? And I'm like totally done with all of that. And I decided then that, what, I am going to be this confident woman. I'm going to build my life the way that I want to build it, because I know that I'm the one that's in control, all of it. Now, going back 20 years prior to that, I love self-development. I've always been into self-development, but of course I fell off to the wayside several times, as you can see throughout my life, right? And my all-time favorite, oh my God, you guys, I love Dr. Wayne Dyer. I just love that man. And for anybody that doesn't know who he is, you got to go on YouTube or whatever, and you got to look up Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he is one of the world's leading self-development. He's a teacher. He's just amazing, amazing. I love his voice. I love everything
I was
about.
just gonna say that.
His voice is just amazing, amazing. And I got to see him in person, and he actually touched my pregnant belly too, right? I was called up on stage, but that's another story. So Dr. Wayne Dyers, who I absolutely love, Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay, there's just so many of them out there. Bob Proctor, like there's just so many of them. The movie The Secret, wow, love, fell in love with all of that. So I decided then that I was going to start to dig deep into the self-development and mindset and all of that, right? So I did that, and I was starting to take courses, listening to YouTube, starting to read all my books again. And I just absolutely love Abraham Hicks, which is channeled through, what the heck is her name? You know her name.
Esther.
Yeah, Esther and Jerry Hicks. Yeah. And I've seen them in person too, right? So I dove deep into all of them. And then I'm doing great, right? Doing amazing. Then COVID hits. And what happens with COVID, which would have happened all over the world, of course, everything shut down. And then, of course, in our area, domestic abuse skyrocketed. Suicide, just in our town of 66,000 here, there was, I think, 8 men that committed suicide in about a week span, and they were in their 40s. Absolutely tragic. Then the liquor sales within Canada jumped up like 65%. It was just crazy. Like just the whole world is falling to shit, right? And then, of course, all these people, they don't know what to do with themselves, because now they have to sit with themselves. And most people don't like themselves, right? Because they worry too much about what's going on outside of them, and they want to keep up with the Joneses. Well, all I got to say is, who gives a shit about the Joneses? That's what I've learned so far. And it was just like, no. So what bothered me the most, though, is all of us, we are homeschooling our children that have children in school. And I'm seeing these women that my kids go to school with their kids, and they're posting on Facebook at 11 a.m. videos of their children, which are pouring their wine for them. And they're laughing in these videos, and they're saying, is it too early for us to be drinking wine? Homeschooling our kids at 11 a.m. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea what you're creating, because we are a culture of wine moms and we think it's cool. Well, I'm going to let you guys know it's so far from cool, because what's happened is our society now looks at alcohol as it's totally normalized. It's ridiculous how normalized it is. And this is the society that we're creating for our children. And I'm just like, no, this is so wrong. You have no idea what you guys are creating. You are going to dig a hole that you cannot get out of. I know, because I've been there. And then, so I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something here. So what I decided to do was, that was March of 2019, was I actually started to put out videos on every Wednesday. And I thought, if there's just one person that I could possibly save, that is what I want to do. So I put out these videos. They're inspirational, about because we were going through so many things, and I was going through a lot of things at that time too, right? So I would put videos out about my thoughts and my feelings and emotions if I had a good day or a bad day, and I would share whatever it was. It was just, I would just go with it, right? Then I'd been doing this for about, I don't know how many months. So that was March. So that would have been until December. And I was also putting out daily quotes on Facebook and Instagram every single day. I would create a daily quote, and then I would put it out every single day. And I do that still every day. I create my own quotes. So if you go onto Facebook and Instagram, you're going to see all these quotes. They're all from me. Anyway, so it would have been December. I'm building like this big following now. Like people are like texting me, they're phoning me. And now we're starting to be able to go out of our house a little bit or whatever, right? And you know, people would see me. Yeah. And then so I'm like, okay. And I'm getting all this following, and they're just, Shannon, you know, like, we're so proud of you, you know, like, thank you. And like, I even had a couple people message me, and they said to me, you saved my life. And I was like, oh, like, to hear somebody say that to you, that you actually saved their life. And there was 2 people that had said that to me, and I was absolutely blown away. But the more following I'm getting, the sicker I am, because you know what? I'm lying. Like, nobody knows my story. Nobody knows anything about me. All they're seeing is this woman, Shannon Mondor, on Facebook and Instagram, who portrays that they've got this perfect life, which I totally have not at all. And I feel like I am an absolute hypocrite, because nobody knows my story at all. So the more compliments I'm getting, the more I'm getting sicker to my stomach, and I can't even stand myself because I'm not being truthful. So I decided in January that I would do a live, because I couldn't live with myself anymore. So what I did is I actually put a live video out on Facebook, and that was January of 2020. And I spilled the beans about everything. I spilled the beans, and there was like over 700 people that were on that live. And I spilled the beans about everything. I spilled the beans about, you know, my upbringing, my addiction, like everything. You name it, I said it. And then after that, people were coming up to me, and they're like, wow, like, totally blew them away. They were like, never would have guessed. And these are people that had known me all my life. Never would have guessed. And so then more and more people were coming to me with their stories and different things like that, right? And then I thought in March, you know what, I'm going to write a book. If there's one person that I can save, I'm going to write a book. So I did. I actually wrote my book, and here it is. How in the hell did I get here? Forever Changing the Genetic Blueprint. This is my baby. Wow. And in this book, first, it's 2 parts. The first part of my book, I talk about all about my whole upbringing, talk about my marriage, I talk about my wedding, I talk about losing my baby. I just talk about absolutely everything. It's very real and it's very raw. And then the second part of my book, I talk about my healing. And I talk about how I had to forgive myself first. And that's what I did. I've had to forgive myself first. Once I could forgive myself first, then I could start to forgive my mom. And then I could start to forgive my brother. And then that's when I could kick in the compassion, and I could start to see, like, of course, they are the way they are because of what happened to them, right? And so I go into all these different areas of my life that I really had to heal. I also had to forgive my husband. I had to forgive so many people in my life. And I really go into depth on all of that. Now with my book too, it's not all about addiction. There's so many facets to my book that so many people will understand. Number one, we all know someone with an addiction. Number two, we all know somebody who is an enabler. So I talk about enabling because I was both sides of the coin, right? We all know somebody who's been abused. We all know somebody who has lost a child. We all know somebody, or we experienced ourselves. If you don't like your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your brother, your whatever, right? So I go into in depth of all these different areas as well within my book. So then my book ended up getting published March 8th of last year. And then I came up with this idea, okay, how am I going to get my book out there? So I wanted to do a podcast. So I created my podcast. Now, the first 16 episodes of my podcast, which is called Fulfillment in Faith, and it's on every place you can get your podcast. So the first 16 episodes is I read a chapter per episode. And on this, each episode, I talk about my thoughts and feelings and emotions back then. But because I am not even the same person that I was 5 years ago, 2 years ago, let alone 6 months ago, I talk about my experiences and my views then at that point in time. And it's the chapters the episodes are just awesome. They're like just amazing. So I strongly recommend that you guys go and listen to these episodes, because you will learn so much, and you will really resonate with a lot of them. So then I did that. And then, so I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, something inside of me, like I'm growing, right? And I don't know what direction to go. And so I'm a big person when it comes to the universe. Anybody who knows me, hey man, I'm little Miss Manifestation here too, just to let everybody know. And I'm like, okay, universe, I can only talk about my book for so long. Like, I'm even freaking bored of it. Like, come on, right? And so I'm like, universe, please, you need to guide me, and you need to tell me what to do next, because I know there's something so much greater out there for me. Not even 2 weeks later, I'm going to a concert, and I'm there with, well, I was supposed to have my oldest daughter there with me, but she ended up getting sick. So I took her back to the Airbnb, and I went to this concert by myself. Now, when I walked into the concert, I sat down, and I want everybody to know that at this particular point in time of my life, I was at a very low, because of the transition and the transformation that I had made within my life had to totally change. And I was so lonely, like I was beyond lonely, because when I published my book and it came out into the world and people read my book, there was a lot of people that I loved did not like my book. Oh. They did not like my book for the fact that I was so open and honest about my truths that happened to me in my life. A lot of people were embarrassed because they knew me, they were affiliated to me. A lot of people didn't understand addiction, so they literally could not comprehend what I was going through. So instead of having compassion towards me, they directed all their attention back to them. They made the book about them, which still to this day totally baffles me. And so I ended up, and I'm telling you, I cleaned house. So who was left within my life was 2 friends, my husband, and my 4 children. So I was at an extreme low. So I'm at this concert, and I'm looking around, and I was freaking feeling sorry for myself. Like I was like, oh my God, like, should I have let all of these people, especially the ones that I love, should I have let them go? Because someone that I dearly loved said to me after I decided to clean house, came to me and said, I sure hope that you can handle the consequences of not having these people in your life. And I literally looked at this person, and I could not believe that individual had actually said that to me, because I knew then what side that person was on. And I can tell you, to this day, our relationship has changed, and I will never go back to the relationship that I and that person had because of that statement. That person is in my life still, but I will never, ever, ever have that relationship as close as we did because of that comment. Because that was so raw for someone to say that to me. So what was basically, pardon me?
But we also know that when people things to us, and when people attack you, there is something that's inside them.
Yeah.
Okay? There is something that they are protecting, or there's some reason.
Oh, yes. Oh, sweetheart, believe me, I know exactly what that individual was protecting, not only themselves, but all these the other people around them. I know exactly. And that's why I was like so taken back, because then I was just like, wow, holy shit, I know where you stand on this. And that's why I had to totally, that's why our relationship will never, ever, ever be the same again. Right. And it's also because that individual wasn't willing to take ownership either of things that had taken place within my life as well. Right. Because we all got to own our shit.
Yeah.
One day, you know, sometime or another. So as I'm in this concert, and this concert is sold out, and there is little me, and I'm telling you, I'm feeling sorry for myself. And I'm crying, and I'm looking at all of these people, like there's husbands and wives, and they're hugging and kissing, and they're drinking, and they're dancing, and they're partying, and there's like girlfriends with girlfriends, and boyfriends and girlfriends, and just everybody. And I'm just looking around there, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like, because I'm at a real crossroads now, because I'm thinking, oh, I'm so sad. Like, did I make the right choice? Did I make the right choice? So I'm like sitting there thinking, wow. Wow. And then all of a sudden, Roberta, I am telling you, it was like this whole clarity had freaking kicked in. It was just the power that I felt was, I just couldn't believe it, because I'm looking around as if it's the world and there's little me. And it just came into reality of the fact that it was like, wow, how many other people in this stadium or in this world is feeling the exact same way I am? I'm not the only one. And I know I'm not the only one.
Right.
I was like, how many other people here are going through the exact same thing? And because they cannot handle being lonely, that they are willing to go back to that old life. And I was like, holy shit, this is absolutely unbelievable. And I was thinking, okay, here's my choices. Okay, I can go back to my old life, right? So number one, I could go back to my old life. Number two, I would become a people pleaser again. Number three, I would be a chameleon because I would conform to what everybody wants me to become. Number three, I'm going to drink again. Fucking rights, I'm going to drink again. Number five, guaranteed I will kill myself. And I thought, absolutely no way will I go back to that. And then there was this power that came into me, and I was like, I am not going back to that life. I know the direction I'm supposed to go now. I am supposed to start speaking my truth, and I am supposed to start telling my story, and I am supposed to start being a leader and speaking for all those other people out there that are so scared shitless. And once they get their power within, then they will join me, and they will start to become that person they are meant to be. So, and at that moment too, I came up with the name of my new series on my podcast, which is called You Are Not the Only One. And I knew then that there was a reason why my daughter got sick. She was never supposed to come to that concert with me. I was meant to go to that concert, so I was to sit in my stillness. And that's what my series of my podcast is about. It is about all these times that we are brought to our stillness and what we learned from them. So I have people all over the world now, which is on my podcast. And you, lovely Roberta, were also a guest on my podcast. So that's why I love your name of yours, because she looks fine.
Yeah.
I wasn't fine for freaking years, but I sure as hell looked fine. And you know what? I know that I am not the only one. And that's why I'm sharing my story. So the funny thing is I'm going to take you back 3 years now after I quit my drinking. Things become, when you quit drinking, you become so clear. Everything becomes like just everything, clarity. It was just unbelievable. I actually started having this extremely, extremely strong vision. And with this vision, I am a motivational and a public speaker. And so I walk up these 3 stairs and I know what I'm wearing. I know what my hair looks like, my shoes, everything. I am looking pretty damn hot. I got to let you guys know. So I'm walking up these 3 stairs, and to the left of me is these black, thick velvet curtains. And I see these 3 individuals to my right, and I know them. I don't know them now, but I know them in my future.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I know I'm going to know them in my future. So as I'm walking over to them, we're laughing, talking, whatever, and they're prompting me. And then so my name is called, curtains open, and I go out on stage. And I'm not just talking a couple hundred people, like I'm talking thousands of people that I'm talking to. And the power that's coming through me is just unbelievable. Like I'm vibrating. And like I'm looking into the audience, and whatever I'm saying, they're resonating with what I'm saying, like they're getting it. Like I'm seeing people cry. There's tears on their faces, whatever. And I'm, my hands are going and my power, like I can just feel it. The problem was, you guys, I didn't know what the hell I was saying. Like this is 3 years ago, right? Well, now you come to this day, and I know exactly what I am talking about. I am talking about my story. I'm sharing it with the world. I'm talking about my podcast, and I'm talking about all of my amazing, wonderful guests that are sharing their story. I'm talking about my book. And I'm also a mindset and manifesting coach. And I'm talking about my program that I developed. And that is what I'm talking about. And I will guarantee every person that's watching this, that you will see me up on stage. You will. And that's my story, guys, and I'm sticking to
it. Oh, wow. That sounds, that's amazing. I mean, all just like, how did you make it? I'm still back to, how did you make it through COVID without drinking? Okay.
I can tell you, I was so determined. I was so focused. And still to this day, like I'm not going back there. There's no freaking way. There is too much going on in my life. And I am brought to my life purpose. And I know 100%. And when I woke up that morning on August 17th, I knew that. I knew it in my heart. And I still do to this day. But I look at people now when they drink, and I just think, wow, you have no idea what you're missing. Like to go to a concert and stuff like that, and to live in the moment and see, like there's just the simplest things in life, go to a baseball game. I don't need any of that now. And just to have that joy and knowing that you don't have to have that wine. I was a wino. Yeah. And let me tell you, that is the most liberating feeling ever, to know that I am so free, so free. And, people look at me and they're like, wow, like you don't drink. It's like, yeah, I don't drink. It is such a joy. It's such a joy. And it's kind of like, oh my God, let you drink. Yeah. It's everybody's choice. Right. It's everybody's choice. Absolutely. But you know what? Now that I have lived in contrast, I know what it's like, both sides of the coin. No way. I would pick sobriety any day, any day, by far. Yeah.
Because COVID that was a really tough year. That was the year that I hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people did. And I think you just really had to be open. And I always looked at COVID too, Roberta, this is happening for a reason.
I know.
This is happening for a reason. And I was going to embrace every second of it. And that was where I really dug deep into who I was and studying. And then, from there, I was led to all these different programs and where I am today. And I absolutely love my life. I love my community. I love you. I love Kathleen, Cameron, who is my one-on-one coach, and just everything. I
was right behind you in that kind of journey, because I felt like my whole life, I was like, but it was pretty good. Then when I look back now, I'm like, you were just living. You weren't living.
That's exactly
I
it,
was
right?
just, yeah, I was
And
just
I don't,
living.
and I don't want to be that individual that just, conforms to the hamster wheel. I'm sorry. There's just so much potential within inside of me. And I know
Yeah,
that.
I know.
I know that whatever I want, I can have. And I desire it, and I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to teach people along the way how the hell they can get there too. There's no question.
They say
That's why I created my program, Fulfillment in Faith.
we're only using how much percent of our brain. And I'll tell you what, when you find clarity and you quit drinking and you quit all of these, turn that social media off, turn the radio off, turn everything off, and just think,
Mhm.
really use your brain.
Mhm.
Look at
And like, and like, I have not watched news since February of last year.
Yeah.
I refuse to listen to any news
Yeah.
anymore. Because what am I getting from it? Total negativity. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need to listen to that garbage anymore. I'm sorry. I would rather fill my mind up with positive things.
Yeah.
So I listen to different podcasts or whatever. Hey, I'm not going to say that I don't love Housewives of Orange County or, the trashy housewives. I'm sorry, I do. But, that's my contrast. I got to laugh at something, right? And I do. I like Dateline. I like the Dateline shows too in the podcast. So, I've got my balance there, I got my, but yeah, but the news and stuff like that, I'm like, nope, I don't want to listen to any of that.
Can't do it. I cannot. But why do we have to wait until we hit rock bottom to wake us up? Why? That's my thing. Why can't we just see this is our mission, I think.
Mhm.
Part of our mission is to show people, like, that's part of my thing is, do not wait. Don't wait. Don't
No.
wait until trauma hits. Don't wait until, you hit rock bottom. Don't
Mhm.
wait, because I'm telling you, oh my gosh,
So
both of
many of us just don't have that direction, or we're afraid. Like I lived in fear my whole life. So we've always got that fear, or that we're worried about being judged, right? But one thing I've really learned throughout my journey is whenever that fear creeps up, you know what? That's when I really, really have to do whatever it is that's causing me to be so fearful. Because that's an experience all on its own that I will be able to tackle. And then from there, I will be able to grow. And because I am all about teaching, right?
Yeah.
I will tackle whatever I can so that I can teach that. But it took me a long time to get there. And I'll be honest with you, there is really not a hell of a lot that I'm afraid of anymore. Because for all that I've gone through, wow, I've experienced so many different things. And yeah, it's going to take a lot to have to shock me now for the things I've seen, the things I've heard, the things I've experienced or whatever, right? And that's where I really look at, like throughout my years, I did go to counselors, total open book here. That's me. And you know what? They did serve a purpose for me. But there were a lot of things that they just couldn't understand or comprehend because they had never went through those experiences with me. So that's why I really, really wanted to develop a program. And I did develop my Fulfillment in Faith, because with me, when you come to me as a coach, I've experienced so many things, and I will be able to relate to you on so many different levels, because mine is all about experiences. Right. Experiences over textbook by far is what you want to go with. It's no different than you want to be a millionaire, right? Roberta, who doesn't want to be a millionaire? Well, would you rather be in a room with all these people that are poor, or do you want to be in a room with people that are millionaires? You want to be in a room with people that are all millionaires. Yeah. Because then you're going to raise your vibration. You're going to be surrounded by that. And then you will conform to be with those millionaires. You never want to be the smartest person in the room either.
Right.
Ever. Number one advice.
Right. Exactly. Right.
because
Right.
you're not going to learn in
Yeah.
that room.
And how did you, like, in school? I mean, I didn't get excellent grades. I wasn't the top of my class, but I have done things, becoming an author and doing, like, how, you think I never saw that ever happening. But
Mhm.
you, when you get clarity, and that means, taking some time and just quieting and just thinking for yourself. But the both of us, we became chameleons to everything around us, and we just followed. I just started following everyone, and that same thing, I wanted everyone to like me, and so I just became a part of that. When actually, after my divorce about 10 years ago or so, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know who I was because I hadn't ever fought for myself.
Mhm.
And it was
Mhm.
crazy. It's taken me years to figure that out. And I'm going to tell you what, with you, I'm like, I am just starting. So
Mhm.
for us at 50 and saying, I'm just getting started. You guys don't understand this. Like, life is so beautiful. I'm healthier now than I've ever been in my entire life. I have more energy. I feel freaking amazing. And
Mhm.
oh my, and every year I feel better.
Yeah.
It's, I want, it's like you just want to scream and shout
Mhm.
from the rooftops, don't you? Because you
Yeah.
just like, wake up. It's beautiful here.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I'm gorgeous.
And that's because we've totally spoke our truth, right? And that is so freeing. And when you hear people say that it's so freeing, it is so freeing. Like, that's one thing you have to do. Just get past that fear. And if you don't know how to get past that fear, that's where people like me, that's where people like Roberta come in, because we've been there. Oh God, I've been there,
Yeah.
and like when you said, like I'm 54 years old and I feel like I'm in my 20s. I'm like 120 pounds. And it's amazing. I'm in the best health I've ever been. I'm so damn happy. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And to have that control of your life and to know that is the most gratifying thing ever. Like it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is like the best time ever, I feel like, to be this way. And I feel that people are waking up. Okay. I really do. I
I do.
swear.
I do too. And speaking of waking up, I just want, like, my podcast with my series. I am so thankful now that there are so many men that are coming on my show in the future that want to tell their story, of them being sexually abused as children and stuff like that, and how that has brought to them their silence and like, it's amazing. So people are, a lot of women seem to be more willing to talk. But that's where I really feel what you had said. Things are changing, and I'll tell you they are, because I can see it just on my show alone, how more men are approaching me and sharing their story. So I'm very, very thankful and very blessed that I've got the platform, that they feel safe enough that they are coming to me. Like, that's an honor all on its own.
Well, because just talking about this is so healing. And every time that you do it, you get more comfortable with it. And it just is so healing and so freeing.
Mhm.
And so this is so beautiful that we have created these platforms for people to come, and you're inviting people to come to you, and I'm inviting people to come to me. And that, listen, first of all, we don't believe in competition. Okay.
Oh, no, there's so much abundance in this world.
There,
Um,
we're
some,
both we're
yeah,
both coaches, we're both mentors. Okay.
yeah, some people are going to resonate with you. Some people are going to resonate with me. And because we're all made of energy, right? It's whoever you're attracted to.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. We all have our own style of everything. And that is so, so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love it that we both, put into this book. It's something that we had no idea. And I had been journaling ever since my kids were born. I started journaling. So in my book, I kind of go back to where my daughter was first born and talking about some of those things, because I had already had all of that down on paper, which was so interesting that I have been doing it. I wanted my kids to know, a lot of things. Like when they were older, they'd be like, hey, when did I start doing this? Or what did I like to do when I was young? So I just started writing it down.
And that's beautiful too, because now you have all those memories. And then you've got proof of that brings you back to that time, right? Yeah. But I just want to let everybody know out there too, that, if you have any interest at all of reaching out to me, go to my website. It's shannonmondor.com. And there's all the information on there about me. There's my book, there's my podcast, there's requests for speaking engagements. It's all in there. And I just want to let everybody know too, that with my coaching program, you can either hire me one-on-one, or I've got my Fulfillment in Faith program. Both of them are 6-month programs. The other thing too is I'm so excited. I've got a live event coming up on September 14th to 16th. It's called Rise Above. And so, yeah, I'm inviting everybody out there to please come. It's going to be advertised all over social media. And you can also look me up on Facebook, which is Shannon Mondor, and that's on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, go and even check out Fulfillment in Faith, my podcast. Because I am so big into my fulfillment in faith, because if you've got faith in yourself, you will have fulfillment in every area of your life. So I just love my life. And I want you guys to love your life too. There's no question. And I can help you get there.
I love that. That's so, so good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'm sure that people will be reaching out to you, and we'll have this everywhere for everyone, and hopefully on Facebook. We can't really see like who all's commenting or anything from here. So
but one thing I do want people to know as well is my calendar is quite like it's booked up. But if you want to do one-on-ones or whatever, reach out to me either on Messenger, or you can get a hold of me through email, which is info@shannonmondor.com. And if you want a one-on-one, yeah, I will make a point of getting you in and us having a chat and just kind of see where I can help you, and we can go from there. So do not hesitate reaching out, and yeah, it'll be good.
So what's so interesting, very good. Thank you for that. And for me, it was, we're very much on the same journey. And what happened to me the other day is I said something, I'm like, there's this person inside, even more, there's more of me that wants to just, like I said, scream, shout from the rooftops. And I'm like, let's go. So this thing that came to me is I'm like, I just want to be like unleashed. I feel like I have been just kind of like, I don't know, silenced and quieted for whatever reason. And so Unleash Her came out. And so yes,
that's a good one.
Program, Unleash Her, is this program. If you're someone that's like the same, maybe have been held back and just quieted, and there's something inside of you, or that person that is healing from things, and you're like, I just want to live my truest life and my truest self. That is what I offer as a coach. And I've kind of switched things up a little bit, because I was saying manifestation, which I am a master manifester, because everything is coming to me that I have asked for. And, but as part of this journey and just let's just go. And this doesn't mean, oh, that you have to want to be an author or whatever it may be. It's these journeys. And I'm going to tell you, it takes a little bit of time. Like, you can't just change all of your past and this and that. It's a little bit of a journey, but if you're willing to invest in yourself and a little bit of time, which I believe that 4 to 6 months is a really good time. A program that I had prior to this was a year-long program, which you kind of think, oh, I have all the time in the world, and I didn't give it my all. That was when I was with Bob Proctor's program. And so plus I was like, oh, that's plenty of time, but I didn't really dig into it. It helped me a lot, as you know, but I think if you focus on yourself for 4 to 6 months, I'm telling you, you can turn your life around. You can figure out who you are. You can do anything that you set out to do. And, you know, as healing from the inside, because for me, there's a lot of things I won't go on today, but I'll be telling my story too, more about how I healed from the inside. And so reach out to me as well if you want to set up a consultation. And my book, She Looks Fine, I actually will give you a free copy too for reaching out and having, you know, a little talk and talking about my program. So I want to share that with people. So it's funny, I have an event coming up too in September. So
what's your dates?
Oh, September. Well, so mine's actually live here in the Cincinnati area. It's in the Dayton area, Dayton, Ohio. We're at the University of Dayton on September the 22nd. My daughter and I are speaking at the university for traumatic brain injury. So yeah, so join us.
For you.
I know, yes, we are so looking forward to that. And we're also available for speaking engagements as well. So as you can tell, we are definitely ready to share our stories and help everyone that we can. And this is so beautiful. We could talk forever. We get on
We
here.
totally talk forever. Like Roberta and I do Zooms every other Saturday. And it's like, oh my God, okay, we could just talk forever.
Like, we better get to work.
We could just go on and on and on. Now we're probably boring our audience. So I want to say thank you. Thank you, Roberta, for having me on. I'm so honored. This is your first one. And this is going to do awesome.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.